It is going to have an incredible impact on us here in the northern part of Florida, because we are going to be talking to three contenders for the 2nd Congressional District seat. And we want to welcome them by giving them a little introduction, which we will allow them to do themselves, in which you will have 90 seconds to respond to a general question and introduce yourself first, and then get right into the question, folks. So, but again, we have Ms. Diane Berryhill, we have Mr. Paul McCain, and Mr. Ron McNeil, who are gracing the dais this evening. This is for all candidates, folks, and again, 90 seconds to respond, and please give your name at the outset. What is the most important environmental issue facing our communities, and if elected, how would you address that issue? Ms. Berryhill.
Well, first of all, I think one of the main things is the oil, because we're not exactly sure about what happened to it. All of a sudden it seems to have disappeared. I believe it's still down in our waters, and I think we're going to have a problem with that for the next 5 to 10 years at least. We don't know how that's going to affect our food supply out there. As far as the state of Florida, I feel like also septic tanks, we have got to keep, we do not want to repeal looking at the septic tanks, because the seepage from the septic tanks and the leaks getting into our water supply is deplorable here in Florida. It's been going on for a number of years, so we do need to keep those inspections in. I disagree with Senator Lawson on repealing that. And also, I think overdevelopment here in Leon County. We have just built a debacle of a Taj Mahal of a courthouse out there. We have stripped trees unbelievably from the Southwood location to benefit a company. And so we need to get back to the point that we're looking at the empty buildings that we have that our county and city seem to like to buy up. And we need to not overdevelop anymore in this area. I would put a moratorium on development for at least 6 months until we get not only our residential but also our commercial buildings under control.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paul McCain.
Hi, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Initially, I think most people would think the biggest crisis is this fiasco at the Gulf with the Deepwater Horizon, but I do believe that future incidences like that can be averted by eliminating the corruption in the MMS, the EPA, and the Oval Office. The biggest problem I see right now is what's going on as we speak with the President and Congress trying to push the Law of the Sea Treaty down our throats. Does anybody here raise a hand if you know what the Law of the Sea Treaty is? Wow, that's a very good response. It's not usually that good. If that goes into effect, this will deliver our oceans, our major waterways, rivers, adjacent land masses, airspaces above that, mineral rights below, and what lives in these oceans and waters. They'll no longer come under the jurisdiction of the United States. They come under the jurisdiction of the United Nations. And this we here can better work with our environment than somebody from the United Nations. The most important part here, and the worst part of this, is that they're pushing this through soft legislation. The Senate will never get to ratify this treaty if it goes in the direction it's going right now. It's already passed the House. It's passed the House, and all we can do right now is contact our senators, because now it is in front of our senators. And that's the only way we can stop it right now. We must tell them to stop.
Thank you. Mr. Ron McNeil, same question, sir.
All right, I'm Ron McNeil. I'm running for Congress. I hope to defeat Alan Boyd in the general election in November. I've written a book. You can't say everything I know in 90 seconds. Here's a book I've written called Have We Lost Our Minds? I'd appreciate it if you download it. Go to McNeilForCongress.com and you can download it. I'm something kind of different. I'm an oxymoron. I'm a Republican environmentalist, and I'm sure you can't understand that. I've spent my life solving environmental problems. I have 97 U.S. patent claims granted and 5 different patents on products and technology to rehabilitate infrastructure in America. Obviously, I think that's one of the biggest problems. That's where I've spent the last 20 years or so of my life, 26 or 7 years of my life. We have problems that we have to solve, that we can solve. From what I heard up here with all the senators, is a lot of it just absolute pipe dream. It's kind of like people back in the 1850s saying, when they drive along in their covered wagons going out west, and man, if we just had airplanes, we could get there so much easier, and these horses would be crapping in our trail, okay? But that's not what we have. We have real stuff. We have aquifers being ruined because sewer systems are so dilapidated that the sewage in dry times is the sewage is running out of the pipes through all the cracks and going down into the ground. And in wet times, you have infiltration coming in, and it flushes out your aerobic bacteria in your sewer plants and blows it out into the streams. So we have a lot of problems we can solve, and my business is to solve those problems. And I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. We will get to, we have 3 questions here for all 3 candidates, and you get 90 seconds on this one too. And we'll just kind of do a round robin and vary the order in which the responses come. Question number 1. Do you believe the federal government should allow oil drilling in federal waters, that's 10 miles or further, in the eastern Gulf of Mexico off of Florida's shores? Mr. McCain.
I believe they should, but personally I believe we should be drilling in state waters. The revenues need to stay in the state. There are so many jobs that will be created. The only problem we have though, and I kind of alluded to this before, the safety precautions were not taken on this Deepwater Horizon. There are so many things that were not done properly. For instance, the acoustic valve. I mean, that should be on every well in the Gulf, every single one. Safety precautions, like the fire booms that the sitting president could have brought out. Nobody knows where they are, if they even exist. There's just so many things that could have been done, but no, we need to be drilling in our state waters, letting that revenue come to the state of Florida. And believe me, with the length of coastline that we have in this district, the majority of those jobs are going to be coming from right here.
All right, and Ms. Berryhill.
Yes, I think we should be drilling. I would prefer to drill about 25 miles and out. Although if we can drill in a little bit closer and not affect our tourism, then I don't have a problem with it. But with the Deepwater well, I would not have approved drilling that far out and drilling that deep unless we could get humans down there so that we could take care of the situation that happened. I'm sorry, I just don't trust robots that much. But yes, I'm very much for drilling.
All right. Second question for everyone. 90 seconds.
Answer that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, in the oil drilling, people have no idea what they do not know. BP, in the last 6 hours prior to that explosion, sent helicopters out and took their people off that rig. So there's a lot of things you have no idea what's going on. I've been working in this environmental thing trying to solve this problem over there with that oil spill with materials that will clean up the environment without destroying the environment. And what's being used is disgusting, to say the least, to me. We have a problem called OSE2. You can look that up, OSCI International, and look at that up in the website, and you'll see what I'm pushing to try to solve those oil spill problems that would not affect our estuaries or our coastline. And we do need to drill, but we need to use the safeguard. BP had about 400 different deals they did wrong over there, but nothing stopped any of it. It just kept going. So there's some safeguards that's got to be in place, and I'm the kind of guy that understands those safeguards. I've been environmental from 2.5 decades. So my background is environmental, and I need to solve problems. We need to be having Washington, D.C. to do just that.
Okay, my apologies, Mr. McNeil. And we'll stay with you here for question number 2, if we could.
All right.
Do you believe that increased emission of greenhouse gases like CO2, carbon dioxide from human activities are contributing to climate disruption? And if you could explain your response to this.
Well, it may affect it a little bit, but compare that to tens of thousands of acres of forest fires and volcanoes erupting and all kinds of catastrophes around the world. And or to this oil spill out there that's putting 1.6 million gallons per day for 80-something days out in our Gulf floating around to destroy our economy and our world. So there's a lot of things that are way more important than that. You're swatting at a gnat when you got an elephant fixed to run over you. We have an economy that's falling apart. We have to solve these problems. If you just plant trees, you can overcome the emissions much easier with planting green foliage all over this earth than you can trying to cut down on the fossil fuels. And if you'll just use the fuels more efficiently, think about cars. I'm 65. When I was young, cars got 8 and 10 miles a gallon. Now they get 35 and 40 miles a gallon. We can do the things The government will not solve the problem. You take people like myself, I got a dozen U.S. patents. There's people like Edison had 1,097 patents. There's people that can solve these problems, but it will not be solved by the government. And if you think it will,